Good evening, my friends, and welcome to A Bard's Stories. Tonight's movie is 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, written by Jules Verne and published in the year 1869. Brought to life on the big screen by Walt Disney in 1954, on a budget of $5 million. That is the equivalent of almost $57 million today, and it grossed $28 million. The equivalent of almost $320 million today. It is the winner of 2 Academy Awards. The story starts off in the year 1868. Ships are being destroyed by a monster in the South Seas. Sailors are afraid to work those ships. It is here we first meet Ned Land, portrayed by the legendary Kirk Douglas. He is a harpoonist, and he has 2 beautiful women in tow walking through the city. We see in front of him in the town square what appears to be a spokesman, and he has a sailor that has survived a wreck from the monsters, an old sailor on a crutch. Ned and his 2 beautiful women walk up to hear what is being said, which sounds like a competing ship's line trying to scare other people away. Ned gets close and quickly points out that the old salt who survived, his breath is quite potent, meaning he's drunk as a skunk. A brief struggle ensues, and the story moves along. It is then and here that we meet Professor Pierre Arnex, portrayed by Paul Lucas, and Conseil, portrayed by Peter Lorre, the professor's scientific assistant. They are bound for the Orient, but as they quickly find out, ships are not going there. As they leave the booking office, reporters hound him for his opinion because he is from the Paris Museum. And like today, they print a false story, not even remotely close to what he said, and even further from the truth. Though he does mention the proportions of the monster are correct. For a second, I'd like to step away. This is also mentioned in the movie Jaws. Word for word, a true nod back to this movie. It is then he is approached by a representative of the U.S. government, offering them passage on a warship if he will lend his expertise and opinion to whatever they may or may not find. He agrees, and why not? Government work ain't bad a gig if you can get it. And well, if you're sailing in hostile waters where a monster's at, or possibly pirates, or who knows, what is more safe than to be on a state-of-the-art warship? Several months have passed at sea, and on the eve of them giving up the search, a vessel is sighted, and before their eyes it is destroyed. As the warship pulls alongside the ship to survey the damage, they could see it is going down. All hands, not a soul surviving. And a hideous form is retreating. The warship beats to quarters and commences its attack. They hit the creature, wounding it. The wounded beast turns, its glowing eyes charging at them. It strikes, crippling the warship, throwing Ned, the professor, and the assistant into the water. The ship's damage cannot save them, and they are left to the sea. The next morning, a fog we see, and in the fog the beast is sitting still in the water. But wait, it is no beast of flesh and blood, but of steel and metal. A submarine boat is what they call it. Yes, friends, that is the most famous of all ships, the Nautilus. It is now after that sighting that they board and are captured. And it is here we get to meet Captain Nemo, portrayed by James Mason. I have seen quite a few Nemos portrayed in my life. He will always be Nemo to me. After some testing, Nemo allows him to stay on the Nautilus and introduces him to its wonders, and the wonders of the sea, the bottom of the sea, including dive gear. It is not until almost a full hour in the movie, an hour that seems like really only a few minutes, that we are told why Nemo is attacking ships. It all starts on a prison colony, more like a slave colony. Its name, Roa Pente. Many Star Trek fans will recognize the name for sure. And this was without a doubt a nod from Star Trek to that. And that he and his crew escaped this horrible place and swore revenge, stating that they had a plan for living and a plan for death. It is on the way back, Nemo explains all of this to the professor, how they escaped, stealing the ship, and then selling it to uncharted waters, and finding an island that he calls Volcania, and that when their mission is over, they shall return to it. But he wants the doctor there so that he could be an ambassador of sorts to the world, and Nemo will dish out information as he sees fit. After some time and damage to the Nautilus, we come to one of the most famous battles in film history, the giant squid, a monster from the deep, of flesh and blood, ready to attack the metal monster of man. If not for the skill and courage of Ned with his harpoon, the ship would have been lost, as would Nemo. But not only does he save the ship, but he saves Nemo. Nemo, who is going to have him fed to the sea, now torn internally. Unable to accept there is still heart in humanity, he does allow him to live, and they proceed to Volcano for repairs. Upon approaching the island, they see an armada of warships surrounding it. Nemo sets out to destroy the island, and on his way back to the Nautilus, he is fatally wounded. Nemo then takes the ship away from Volcania. He orders the ship to submerge for the final time, to perish at the bottom of the sea, with all on board. Ned fights back and manages to get himself, the doctor, and his assistant off the boat. As they watch the island explode, the Nautilus sinks. We hear a whisper from Nemo saying, "There is hope for future. And when the world is ready for new and a better life, all this will someday come to pass in God's good time." I have all my life loved this movie. It inspired me to learn about the oceans and its creatures. As many people know, I have my other channel, Tranquil Waters, and it is, for the most part, about my aquariums, many of them saltwater. It prompted me to learn about the ocean, take classes, so many things. Yet as much as I want to give it a perfect score for how much it's meant to my life, I cannot. There were some things that, even basing it off the time it was made and accepting the technical limitations, I can only give it a 95 out of 100, 4.5 stars. But it is a show that truly must be seen, and one that is for all ages, ending on a message of hope. And with that hope, I leave you this evening, and hope and pray that you, as well, have a good night